When I know I need to work on getting clients through the door, you know what I do first? I focus on booking free speaking gigs in front of my ideal audience. For more than a decade, speaking has been the most reliable way I've grown my business. But if you want to use speaking as marketing, where the heck do you actually find those opportunities? And how do you get more of them on your calendar for the rest of this year and next? In today's episode, the first in a two-part fan favorite series on how to get clients from speaking, I'm sharing the key steps I use time and time again to find and book speaking gigs in the right rooms, the ones filled with your potential ideal clients. And so if you're ready to get clients from speaking, let's get you out there. Welcome to the Establish Yourself podcast, the show that helps coaches and consultants get clear on how to talk about what you do, simplify your offers, and have more fun in your business and beyond. I'm Annie Franceschi, brand strategist, author, former Disney storyteller, and forever Muppet fan. I'm here to help you clarify your message, package your expertise, and streamline your systems to grow a business you actually enjoy. If you're ready for less confusion and more magic, it's time to establish yourself. Every time I think I'm going to use something other than speaking to grow my business, it blows up in my face. I'm thinking back to December 2023. I was completely losing my mind, stressed out, trying to scale my practice with Facebook ads. I took a whole class on it and I was doing all the right things, but it was barely working. I'm spending hundreds of dollars just to be happy I got 18 people to sign up for my email list. I kept beating myself up like, really, this should work. But then I realized this isn't really worth my time, at least not right now. I know that there's a better way. I said, screw this. And I went back to what I always think of as my old reliable, speaking. So instead of worrying about putting together ads, I spent an entire full day in December 2023 just sending warm-ish emails to people I had some sort of connection with, asking about opportunities to speak for free. Those emails turned into 33 speaking engagements in 2024. 24 of the 33 were completely free, but they brought me almost $80,000 in client work. So I literally made an average of like $3,000 every time I spoke for free. That's the power of knowing where to find the right speaking opportunities and how to ask for them strategically. Last year was one of my biggest years ever for turning free speaking into paying clients, and I'm so glad I didn't stay down the ads rabbit hole and went back to what I know really works. When you speak in front of your ideal clients, it's so easy to get stuck just trying to get those bookings in the first place. I know many people who wait for invitations that never come. They hope that someone will magically discover them and ask them to speak. Or they're nervous, spinning their wheels and worried about, do I cold pitch this person? Do I pitch conferences? Why does no one get back to me when I fill out these applications? I get it. When I first started speaking more than 10 years ago, I had no clue where to even begin looking for opportunities. But here is what I've learned and still works for me today. The best speaking opportunities, ones that actually turn into clients, they're not impossible to get. They're happening all around you every day, every week, every month, online and offline. But often the problem isn't just where do I find the opportunities? It's how do I ask for them? And how do I make sure that I'm making it an easy yes and not too much about myself? We're going to talk about that today because finding speaking opportunities isn't about having some magic networking superpower or just knowing all the right people. In my experience, it comes down to 4 strategies that anyone can use today. First, you need to own your speaker identity. You need to tell people that you want to speak. That is how we are going to manifest opportunity. Second, you need a foundation in place. Before you even start looking for opportunities, you need to have 3 key pieces figured out, or you're going to waste a lot of time and get a lot of crickets. Third, you need to know where to look. This is where a lot of people go wrong. They're looking in all the wrong places or reaching out to the wrong people. And fourth, you need to make what I call warm-ish asks. Instead of cold pitching, you're going to learn how to reach out to people that you have some degree of connection with. The beauty of this approach is that it's very relationship based, not hustle based. You are not going to spam hundreds of people just hoping that somebody sticks. You're going to be strategic about who you reach out to and how. Now, the first tip, and it's probably the simplest and most important tip I could give you in this episode, is to own your speaker identity. And what I mean by that is if you want to start speaking, to grow your business, to turn free talks into paying clients, a huge part of getting more of those opportunities is letting people know you are looking for them, to tell people that you want to speak. Anytime someone has asked me, how do you get started with a speaking career? Honestly, it started because I started telling people. I got my very first gig, which was actually out of town for a group of wedding vendors, simply because I was telling people I was networking with and getting to know, hey, I think I really want to speak. And here's what I think I might be speaking on. So that is the very, very first step in all of this. I know that sounds really simple, but it is important. And I'm reminded of this throughout my career. When my book came out, Establish Yourself, in 2022, I often replaced the word speaker with author in my bio. And then I saw I was getting asked less and less to speak. I went, ooh, I do still want to speak. So I started putting speaker back in and telling people that. You know what happened next? I got more gigs. I got more leads. I got more people referring me. So before we get into any of the strategy I want to teach you here is that that is the simplest one. If you want to be speaking more, put speaker in your email signature, in your LinkedIn headline. Tell people and you will be shocked. People can't help you if they don't know the thing you want help with. So be sure to mention that. Now, let's talk about what you need second, and that's your three must haves. These are really important for when you're going to take the steps I'm going to encourage you to do later in the episode. But I would encourage you to get really clear on these before you start doing any sort of applying to speaking or asking for free talks because they are essential to making this an easy yes. And that is really a huge heart to this that I think people mess up is that they're so thinking about it from their perspective that they don't realize that when you are looking for free speaking engagements, what you are really doing is offering some form of entertainment or edutainment, education meets entertainment, for event organizers. Whether that's someone who puts on a lunch and learn every month or someone who's putting together an annual conference, the idea is the same. They have an audience, they are trying to provide value to that audience. They may or may not have a budget. What we're talking about is free speaking, so let's assume they don't, but they still want someone who's polished, who's tailored, who's going to delight their audience. And so, if you want to get more speaking when you reach out to these folks or you get referred to them, you want to be clear on these foundations that you are really setting yourself up for success and being clear about making this an easy yes for them. If you can show up and be really clear on what you do and show how it's tied to what they do or what their organization is all about, if you are tailoring it to their audience, which also should be an audience you want to work with, right? And third, that you have a talk and a talk description that really sounds valuable, clear, and professional. If you can serve that to people on a silver platter, they're going to say yes more than they're going to say no. And that's how you're going to start to fill your calendar. Before you start looking for free speaking opportunities, you should have these three things figured out, at least at a basic level. First, you need to be crystal clear on what you do. Can you articulate what you help people do in a sentence or two? If you can't explain what you do simply, you're not ready to get in front of a room and expect people to want to work with you. And if you're thinking, well, Annie, I don't feel clear on my message yet. That's why I'm listening. I get it. This is what I help people do. That's what you can learn here on the show. And that is what I help people do when we work together privately in what I call package your process. That's my step by step system to get clear on what you do, who it's for, and how to explain it with confidence. I'll link in the show notes to a free consultation with me if you're curious and you want more direct help. The second thing you need to be able to do is to know who your audience actually is. I know that you may be thinking, well, I work with lots of different audiences, but here is the thing. When you go out asking for speaking, you do need to be thinking of an audience for that talk. Who is this talk for? I'm not saying your whole business has to be dedicated to whoever you speak in front of, but you're going to see better results when you're really clear on who you want to be speaking to and tailoring your talk for them. You want to be talking to people who would want to work with you, because if you want to be speaking for free and turn that into something, you have to actually be in the right room with the right people who would want to take the next step with you. You can have different versions of your talk for different audiences, but each speaking opportunity should target one specific group if you want to see more success. And third, you need a compelling talk title and description. You do not need the slides. You do not need to be able to give this talk tomorrow, especially if you're thinking of a new one or you're just getting started, because here is my secret. You don't actually have to have the entire talk created. You just need the title and the description with the takeaways, something that's going to make event organizers go, yes, my audience would love this. I use this strategy to this day. I have been doing this for more than a decade. When I have a great idea for a talk that's going to lead to my ideal clients, I will put together the talk title, the description with the takeaways. But here's my secret: I don't have my slides done. I don't have my stuff figured out. I'm going to wait till somebody bites on that hook, right? And then when I have the date, I will build. I'm kind of a lifelong procrastinator, y'all. So if I don't have the due date, I'm not going to work on it, but I can see the vision. And so, if that helps you, if that gives you hives, I apologize, but it is one of my great secrets of success with speaking is that so many of the talks that I have done, I've probably put together throughout my career maybe 20 to 25 talks, and almost all of them were not built when I originally mentioned, hey, I could do this talk. So if that helps you kind of get over the hurdle of taking action and sharing about it, I want to encourage you to do that. Now, the third piece of the strategy is to find your people, to know where to look. So many people get stuck here. So let me break it down for you. I want you to start with where your ideal clients already gather. This is why it was important to think about who is the audience? Who are your ideal clients? Because then you can ask yourself, well, what associations are they already a part of? What networking groups do they already attend? What online communities are they active in? One of my favorite ways to find this out is to just ask. Ask your current or your past clients. Send them a quick message or a text. Say, hey, what groups or associations are you a part of, online and offline? You may be really surprised to hear what you discover. So many of my clients are members of associations like ATD, the Association for Talent Development, or ICF, International Coach Federation, or they're members of BIG North Carolina, which it stands for Believe, Inspire, Grow, and that has physical presence and an online presence. And I want to encourage you to know those answers about your ideal clients. Where are they hanging out? Where do they network? Where do they get together? What events do they go to? I also want to encourage you to not forget about virtual opportunities. About half of my speaking in any given year is virtual, and it's done in membership communities, it is done in masterminds, and it's kind of nice because you can just do it in your pajama pants, right? It takes you a lot less time than showing up in person. And I like to say you only have to do half of your hair. So just the part that faces the camera on Zoom, right? It's a pretty good deal. And they can be just as successful in meeting new people and getting new folks into your world to become clients. So you want to look for masterminds, membership communities, and online networking groups. And it's always great to have a warm connection. So maybe that's one of your clients who's already a member. I also want you to consider, if you've done a lot of online, that there's a lot going on in your community that you may not know about. So consider those local opportunities. Some of my most profitable speaking, especially this year, has been to small local groups. I always taught myself to not worry if I walk into a room. I've, had successful engagements and I walked in and there were three people and one of them was my dad. Okay. Just a few months ago, I spoke to a room of 14 people and I've already booked three clients from that. It has become a 5-figure room for me just off a room that small of people who mostly already knew me. Size doesn't always matter. Engagement does, and the right strategy does. Presenting what makes sense for that audience, making sure the next step is clear. And fourth is where this all comes together. And this is what I call the warmish ask strategy. This is where so much magic happens. And this is what I turned to in December 2023 when I was fed up with ads And I said, you know what? Forget this. I am going to go follow my leads and make some warmish ass. And those were the things that led to my biggest free speaking year ever, which was last year. Instead of cold pitching strangers, I want you to reach out to people you have some degree of connection with. And here are 4 types of warmish ass that work, ones that I swear by. The first is to leverage your existing network and connections. I want you to look for groups or events where you have some degree of connection. Maybe you've attended a past event, you have a mutual friend who's involved with it. LinkedIn could be great for figuring this out, but also go back to your calendar. What did you go to this year? What have you heard people talking about? Do you have any degree of connection to folks who may be looking for speakers? The second type of ask you want to make is to expand within an organization you've already spoken for. This is one of my favorite strategies. If you have already spoken for one chapter of an organization, I want to encourage you to reach out to other chapters. Now that we are in the post pandemic times, there are so many of these chapters across the country who may geographically be thousands of miles away from you. However, they still do virtual meetings. So this is where that virtual piece comes into play, right? So think about, who have you spoken for, even if it's been a few years. Can you sort of chapter hop and say, hey, I've spoken for the Raleigh chapter of this organization and that was so well received. I would love to come and speak for the Charlotte one. The third type of warmish ask, follow up with your past connections. I know we think, well, we've spoken for someone before and we don't want to bother them, but there can be opportunities in that. I want to encourage you that if you've spoken somewhere before, reach out and let them know you have a new talk. Even if you haven't built the talk yet, I talked about that, right? Let past organizers know what you're working on. When I talked earlier and shared about that room of 14 people, that is for an organization I've spoken for 6 or 7 times over the past many years. So people who've worked with you before are much more likely to say yes again, or to pass you to someone who said, hey, maybe we're not the fit, but do you know this person, or making that referral for you. And last but not least, the fourth type is to connect with your fellow speakers. If you know other folks, especially folks who are speaking for your same audience, or they're doing a lot of speaking for free, or just speaking in general, one of my favorite things to do lately is to let them know when I have a new talk. So I'll send a note to like my friend Sarah, who's also a speaker, and say, hey, I have this new talk. It's a little bit different. Here's the audience, etc. Do you have a new talk? Tell me a little bit more about what you're working on. I've had great success and I've loved supporting others, because speakers often get asked, well, do you know anyone else? Right. And they help event organizers fill their lineup. So it can be really helpful to know who in your community also speaks, what they speak on, and to share referrals. Now and again, I'll apply to something and I'll hear back, but this is really how this happens. It's relationship based. It's making sure on a very basic level that people know what you're up to, right? If again, that's starting back at the beginning, like if you don't tell people that you want to speak, no one's sending you referrals, right? So tell them and make sure that you're presenting them with something that's clear and valuable, that's an easy yes. Letting people know that you want to speak, people you've spoken with in the past, people who may be connected in some way. This is how you're going to get more yeses than nos, more replies than crickets. Let me tell you a quick story about how this has worked for me. Last year, back in December, I had this hunch of, I'm going to reach out to ICF Los Angeles. It's been like 10 years since I've been in LA and I would love to go. I work with the chapter here in Raleigh. I am a sponsor of it, but I have never connected with ICF LA. So I went on their website. I found the programming chair's email. I emailed her and sent her a warmish ask. Didn't hear anything. Follow up the first week of January, and she goes, oh, thank you so much. I'm actually not the right person anymore. The right person is this person, Gretchen. Sure enough, we connect with Gretchen. She says, well, actually, we would really love to have you speak, but we don't have a budget for travel. Say, no problem. I have been looking for an excuse to go back to LA, my old stomping grounds, see my coworkers, maybe even fit in a Disneyland trip. Long story short, I went. I spoke for free, and it was one of the best rooms I spoke in all of 2024. We had like 45 people, a bunch of them became clients. It turned into like $20,000 of client work, more than paid for my trip, and then some. And Gretchen and I became friends and collaborators. She has had me as a paid speaker in her program multiple times. That wouldn't have happened without that One, me tearing my hair out and going back to speaking, and two, sending the emails, sending those warmish asks, reaching out to people. Here is the thing about warmish asks. You are not asking strangers to take a chance on you. You are reaching out to people who already have some reason to trust you or know your work. And you're just making it really easy for them to say yes by showing up prepared with exactly what they need. Now, I know you'd probably love to make these asks, but you may be thinking, oh my gosh, Annie, like, what the heck do I say? What talk should I pitch? Who should I reach out to first? How do I make this feel polished and professional instead of mega awkward? This is exactly why I created Clients from Speaking Private Fast Track. Fast Track gives you two things that I think make all the difference: my entire proven Clients from Speaking system, my repeatable roadmap, strategies, templates, even Mad Lib style pitch emails that I've been using for years to make these warmish asks, and dedicated private time with me to actually implement it. It's not another course to buy and never open. It's the real plan and the working sessions to put it in action. It's the templates and my expert eyes on how to make them work for your business, your audience, and your goals. In my private fast track experience, I will help you with your two biggest priorities: everything from writing and refining those speaking pitch emails to outlining your signature talk or polishing an existing talk, figuring out your talk to free consultation process, or even building out a simple speaker presentation menu that you can start sharing even if you don't yet have a speaking website. So, if you've had good ideas for how speaking can maybe bring in more clients, this is the opportunity to make a date and actually get them done, polished, and ready to use. I only have two fast track spots available for June. So, if you are a coach, consultant, or service business owner who already knows that free speaking could help you grow your business, but you need a system and expert help to put it together, set a free time to talk with me at greateststorycreative.com/consult. I'll put a link in the show notes and set time with me if you're curious about this, because I'm here to help you get it out of your head, off your laptop, and onto the stage. All right, let's recap what it takes to get free speaking opportunities that can lead to ideal clients. First, own your speaker identity. Tell people you want to be speaking and watch the referrals roll in. Second, lay your foundation. Be clear on your message, your audience, and your talk title and description. If you need help getting clear on your message, that's what I do. Set a free time to talk with me. Step three, look in the right places. Follow the breadcrumbs from where your ideal clients gather. And if you're not sure, ask them where they're hanging out online and offline. And step four, make warmish asks. Reach out, ask for connection, be clear. Don't use cold pitches, use warmish pitches. Use the four types of connections we talked about. And if you want help, you know where to find my email templates. Everything I just taught you is the same approach that I used to ditch ads and instead book 33 talks in 1 year. I want you to be in the right rooms and connect the dots between how amazing you are and the value you can provide to changing people's lives. All of this starts with one simple step. I want you to tell people you want to speak. And if you want that person to be me, I'd be honored. Hey, do you like surprises? The credits are about to roll, but just like a Marvel movie, stick around to the end for something I put in just for you. Thanks for listening to the Establish Yourself podcast. I'm Annie Franceschi, and if you're enjoying the show, it would mean so much to me if you follow it, leave a quick rating, or share it with a friend. And for free branding resources and more ways to work together, head to greateststorycreative.com/podcast. Now here it is, your moment of magic. I thought today would be a perfect opportunity to tell you about one of the speakers I most admire in the universe. She is a past client, but more importantly, a dear friend and unforgettable speaker. And her name is Marcy Rader. And she has a TED Talk that is worth your time. It is called The Relentless Pursuit of More. And if you have been feeling overwhelmed and like you are just having to go after a million things and you need some peace, joy, and a fresh direction, I'll put a link in the show notes to Marcy's TED Talk. Be sure to check her out and follow her for more if you are in the era of ruthless prioritization and not burning yourself out in the pursuit of more.